All right, welcome everyone. It is noon, so we will get started with our webinar on protecting our kids, injury, illness, and everyday risks. My name is Mary Lizakowski, and I'm a Coalition Health Director with Foundation for Healthy North Dakota, which is a nonprofit organization established in 2022 with the mission to promote health and wellness across North Dakota by working at the community level. We continue to expand our statewide coalition to foster collaboration among local communities on common initiatives. And by becoming a member of the coalition, you'll be the first to receive information about educational opportunities like this one, updates on relevant public health information, legislative news, as well as access to digital advocacy resources and toolkits. A couple housekeeping things just to cover. Webinar attendees will be automatically muted for the presentation. After the recording, after the presentation, a link to the recording will be sent out along with an evaluation survey to complete. If you have questions, please put them in the chat box and we will address them after the presentation. So we love partnering with Safe Kids, and Trisha prepared a fantastic presentation for us today. Unfortunately, she's unable to be here to present. However, we are fortunate to have the wonderful Katie Heck stepping in to give the presentation. Katie began her work in injury prevention after returning to the U.S. in 2020, joining Sanford Children's Community Programs, the lead organization for the Safe Kids Fargo-Moorhead Coalition. She is a certified child passenger safety technician instructor with endorsements in safe travel for all children and child restraint systems on school buses. With over 19 years of experience in education and youth development, both domestically and internationally, Katie brings a passion for teaching and serving others to her role. In June 2021, she became coordinator for Safe Kids Fargo-Moorhead and manager of Sanford Children's Community Programs. Through community events, outreach, and training, the coalition works to prevent injuries across southeastern North Dakota and western Minnesota. Under Katie's leadership, the team has strengthened partnerships and renewed its focus on empowering families with the knowledge and skills to make safe, informed decisions. Katie values collaboration and believes everyone plays a role in keeping communities safe. Her work centers on equipping caregivers and youth to reduce injuries and protect what matters most, their children. And I am happy to have you here, Katie, and I will turn it over to you for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you for having us today and look forward to sharing with you. So let me just find my screen here. Okay, are we seeing the correct thing? Mary, can you verify that for me?
Yes, looks
Perfect.
great.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us with home safety in the winter months. And hopefully I can do Trisha justice here. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And as Mary just pointed out, we are Safe Kids Fargo-Moorhead, which is a branch of the Sanford Children's Community Programs Department. We're a nonprofit organization with our focus on preventing unintentional injuries for children and teens. There are over 400 Safe Kids coalitions throughout the United States and another 20 internationally. And the work that the coalitions have done collaboratively have supported in reducing preventable fatalities and injuries in the United States up to 60% since 1988. So we do this by addressing major injury risks. We talk about our motto is keeping kids safe at home, at play, and along the way. And so we do that through car seat checks, sports safety education, safe sleep education, water safety, firearm, and pet safety, just to name a few things there. So we'll cover a few of those areas yet today. Just for an awareness too, there are three Safe Kids coalitions in the state of North Dakota. You'll see Safe Kids Bismarck-Mandan there in the green. We're the light blue Safe Kids Fargo-Moorhead, and we above us is Safe Kids Grand Forks. We all work collaboratively together, as well as with the Minnesota side of the Safe Kids coalitions as well. So a lot of people don't know that we expand that far out, so it's fun to get to share that. And if you live in a more rural area, please do reach out for us to be able to support you as well. That's our goal. So today we're going to look at these various topics. We're going to start with health and home preparedness, then looking at safety specifically inside the home, then going outside that home, additional seasonal hazards, and then, as Mary said, if you have any questions, please enter those in the chat so that we can support you with answering those at the end of the presentation. So looking at health and home. Um, Starting with the home, it's important. We know that winter seasons just bring more bugs, cold, flu, um, RSV, unfortunately, and just stomach bugs through our homes. So it's important that we just do those basic things that we do anyway, but maybe even increase the times that we do it. We wipe those high touch surfaces multiple times a week. When we talk about high touch surfaces, what does that include? That includes refrigerator handles, doorknobs, cupboard door handles, light switches, the remotes of the TVs, our phones. I don't know if you've ever heard the research, but our phones can carry more bacteria and germs than even those escalator railings. So it's very important that we do wipe those down and be mindful to do that, particularly if we are feeling any onset of bugs or colds coming. Then we're going to be using cleaning products most likely to do that. And part of that safety for our kiddos is keeping those cleaning products in a safe place that's up and out of reach and locked. Winter time means we tend to be inside more often than not in the summer compared to the summer. And so it is really important that the kids can't access that. So we don't have those accidental ingestions. We have a little display here in our safety center that shows how like Pine Sol looks like apple juice. And so it can be confusing for children if they see something sitting out, particularly if it's not in its correct container. So that's important too, that we keep it in their the cleaning products in their original containers as well, but out of reach, up, out of reach, and out of sight. Ideally, if we can't keep them up and out of reach, then let's make sure they're locked up. One other area to consider with that is those, some of our washers and dryers now have drawers underneath them. Those are easily accessible even for our kiddos that crawl. So we might store cleaning products or laundry detergents and things in there, making sure they have safety locks as well. And then as you're using those different cleaning products, make sure you have good ventilation. I know even I love one of mine has eucalyptus in it, which really cleans out the nasal passages. However, it is nice to have a little fresh air alongside of that. So just making sure, you know, even cracking the window or that patio door, making sure it's blocked if you have a little one who's a crawler or a toddler that might try to get out, but opening them for a few minutes to help with ventilation and getting some fresh air. Additionally, we know washing hands matters. Washing hands matters, and sometimes we just assume kids know how to do that. And it's important that we do teach the children how to wash their hands and when to wash their hands. Not only do we teach them, but then we also try to model it for them because they are mimics of the behaviors we do. We're looking at after the bathroom, before and after eating, before and or after blowing your nose or coming in from outside. When we touch shared toys, we know, especially with our younger kiddos, they are very curious and they explore the world with their senses. And sometimes that means their mouth. And so making sure we're washing the toys too afterwards, but also they're washing their hands because they're often putting their hands in their mouths as well. So then the other thing to consider is when we're visiting loved ones, they might be infants or vulnerable adults that we want to make sure we're washing our hands regularly as well. I discussed that it's important that we try to make sure we teach kids how to do it, not just assume they know how to do this. So here's a little video that can help, and it outlines quite well how to do that. I'm going to bump into the here and launch it, so just bear with me one moment.
Washing your hands helps to remove germs. Germs are very, very tiny. They're actually so small we can't see them. Some germs can make us sick, and washing our hands stops the germs from spreading or getting inside our bodies and making us sick. It's important to wash our hands before eating, before touching food, after going to the bathroom, after blowing your nose, sneezing, or coughing, after touching your pets or other animals, after playing outside, and after playing with messy toys. Now, let's learn how to wash our hands. First, turn on the water and rinse your hands. Hot water is better at killing germs, but don't make it so hot you can't keep your hands in the water. Next, put some soap on your hands. Lather up. Use soap to work up a good lather all over your hands and wrists. Don't forget the backs of your hands, between your fingers, and under your nails too. Soap is very important for making your hands clean and getting rid of any germs. Sometimes you might use soap that comes out of a bottle, and sometimes you might use a bar of soap. Then, rub your hands together for 20 seconds to make lots of bubbles and foam. Make sure that your hands and all of your fingers are soapy and bubbly. Scrub and rub the soap in for at least 20 seconds. That's about the length of time to say the alphabet slowly, or hum the happy birthday song twice. Next, rinse your hands under the water again. It's best to try and rinse all the soap off, since it can irritate the skin if left on to dry. Make sure to wash away all of the bubbles. The last thing to do is dry your hands. You could use a towel or air dry your hands. Germs love damp skin, so dry thoroughly and wash your towel regularly to prevent any unwanted germy guests hanging out in your bathroom. If you use a paper towel, make sure to put it in the trash when you are finished. All done. Washing our hands is an important way to help us stay healthy and prevent the spread of illnesses. For more information and resources related to
There you go. I like that they clearly outlined how in that video how to wash your hands, making sure you go not just the palms of your hands, but in between your fingers, on the top of your hands and your wrists. Oftentimes we just teach kids, and I don't know how many times I've seen it. Kids, they put water on their hands, they put the soap, and their hands, while they're scrubbing, are under the water, and then they're done. So that explicit education helps so that we can make sure we kill those germs. I also like the idea of teaching, I don't know if you heard the video say it, 20 seconds is how long we should scrub before we put our hands under the water to rinse off the soap. That's saying the ABCs slowly, singing happy birthday twice, singing twinkle twinkle little star also is a little strategy based on what your little person knows. So great practical tips there just to support us in making sure little ones know what washing our hands means. Other things we can do to prevent illness is that proactive approach of making sure we get any vaccines that we can to try to prevent it. Again, we're in that winter season, the fall to winter. It tends to be where we see the flu, COVID, and RSV impact us the most. And so doing what we can there to prevent the illness with vaccines, and then also identifying that we want doing these things help us prevent secondary illnesses such as dehydration, fever-related incidences, and just being in unsafe positions as we're sleeping because we're not feeling well, maybe we're congested, different things like that. So that's another action step we can proactively take. Once we look at those different prevention things healthy-wise, let's look at safety inside the home. Who has a fireplace? I love a good fireplace. Sometimes we have space heaters that we need to use in our winter months, and these are great things to be able to help keep us healthy and stay warm, but they also can pose their own risks, especially seasonal fires. So one thing to keep in mind is, have you practiced your fire action plan for winter months? It's important that we consider that. Sometimes it means changes from what we can do in the summer. Our two children have bedrooms in the basement. While their windows are at ground level, one is under the patio. Their bedroom window, one is in an area that just drifts snow very easily. So we need to make sure, one, that we're doing our diligence as adults to clear the snow so that should we have a fire, they can get out. But two, talking through them about some different barriers that could be in place because of winter, just the snow and different conditions that we can have. So practicing your fire escape plan is important, and addressing any changes that need to happen, watching those egress windows or any window areas that might need to remain open for easy exiting as needed. Additional things to keep in mind, have that safety zone around heaters and fireplaces. For older children, you might be able to verbalize, nope, don't go that close. Here's your line, and you can use a line on a tile, or you can use a line on a carpet or an imaginary line. For those younger kids, they need that concrete barrier potentially. What can you do to make sure that they stay away from those heaters and fireplaces so they don't get unintentionally burned by them? We want to make sure we plug in any space heaters directly into the wall rather than using a power strip. And we want to keep blankets, towels, curtains, holiday decor away from anything that can get hot and potentially start a fire. Additionally, we want to test our smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors. We generally say at the time of our clocks rolling forward or falling back, is a great time to test your smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors. If you haven't tested them though, I would strongly encourage you to do that to make sure they're working properly and are available to serve you well. Carbon monoxide detectors specifically, I want to talk about. It is real important. We've had some really unfortunate events in this Fargo-Moorhead area with families who unfortunately have passed because of carbon monoxide poisoning. And it's a odorless, colorless gas, and it is very hazardous to us. And because we're so contained in the winter in our homes, we don't open the doors and things. It's more likely to happen in winter months rather than summer months. The recommendations for carbon monoxide detectors is that you have them on all your main areas and outside each bedroom space. I would recommend that if you have toddlers or little people that are crawling and potentially can interact with plugins, that maybe you consider a carbon monoxide detector that can be up and out of reach so they can't accidentally knock it and make it alarm, falsely alarm. You can also get smoke and carbon monoxide detectors together. So just something to consider and make sure you are looking into for your family. We're going to just dive into some symptoms here of carbon monoxide poisoning. Some things to be aware of, and it can be a headache. They can range from mild to severe and often accommodate a feeling of pressure. So just being mindful that's a symptom. Being unconscious or dizzy are symptoms that need immediate attention, and we should get support there quickly to try to address what it is. If you do suspect that it is carbon monoxide, we'd want to remove that person from that building and get anybody else out of that building into a safe place. And call 911 to support. If you're breathless, there's another critical sign, and it can feel like you just don't have enough air, even if you're resting, that you're struggling to get that breath. You might experience nausea. That can sometimes be mistaken for other flu or common symptoms of other illnesses. So just being mindful that that too is a carbon monoxide poisoning symptom. And then collapsing. That again is a severe symptom that we need to get that person medical attention straight away. And they can be life-threatening. So anytime we suspect this, we want to get out of that area and call 911. There was a story of a family who was the father and son were in the garage using a generator and came in, and both of them were giving these symptoms. I have a headache. I feel dizzy. I feel nauseated. Well, here they had not had the garage open. there was carbon monoxide that had accumulated, and thankfully they received medical attention and were fine. But we need to be mindful of those different things. Um, we're talking about safety in the home, but we also can talk about this in fishing, fish houses and different things like that as we're um, trying to enjoy what winter can provide us. So just being mindful of that. Um, so as mentioned, we want to get out if we have any suspicions that we might have some carbon monoxide poisoning. Everybody, including pets, don't wait to find the source. Don't take the time to do that. Just get out. Your lives are, you can easily, very quickly get those symptoms. So we want to make sure we avoid that if we can. Call for help once you're in a safe place. That 911, they're going to support you and they're likely to send some services out to support you and check for carbon monoxide. And then anyone having any symptoms, we should have them receive medical attention. If it is safe, you can open the window or doors to try to ventilate an area. But again, we'd rather have you get out into a place with fresh air where we know that there's no carbon monoxide. But if safe, you can ventilate it. And then it's important that we do not re-enter until first responders have deemed our house safe. And they'll take their different tools in to check your house for carbon monoxide. If you ever suspect, I've had it where our alarm we had an alarm in a plug-in at, kind of knee height. It got bumped. It went off. We called and they came and they supported us just to verify that we are still safe. It was a false alarm there. So just those emergency responders are happy to serve and make sure you're safe. Other signs for more chronic carbon monoxide poisoning, it's important to take this into consideration because if you start noticing some patterns, we might not have those full symptoms when we're in a space that's poisoned, but we might start noticing some patterns. And so if you're feeling better when you're not in the site of poisoning, if you consistently kind of feel sick in one place, kind of keep that in mind. Could it be carbon monoxide? If you have any behavior or mood changes, reoccurring or unexplained illnesses when you've visited that site again and you're not feeling well. There's this pattern coming. If you had any heart and lung concerns, maybe have it in the back of your mind. Is that something I need to get looked at in a particular area? Like I said, maybe it's in the shed where you have a generator or something. Maybe it's in your home or another location. So there's just a variety of different things we can be looking for and being mindful that these can be signs for early detection and act on those. And if you don't have a carbon monoxide detector, perhaps purchase one, check it out, have emergency services come and make sure that site is safe. Different things that we can happen. I don't know about you, but earlier this year we had some rain and snow and ice all coming together in a beautiful mess. And I was worried about some power outages and things that could take place. And so it's important that we're prepared for those as well. So making sure we have flashlights with batteries and extra batteries. We want to avoid candles just for the hazards that they can be, with either hot wax falling, the fire hazard, etc. Have a phone charger that doesn't require electricity and making sure that's consistently charged. Have a plan for heating safely during outages. Do you have additional blankets? What are other options that you can do? Is there a particular area you might stay in your house and try to keep that one space warm with everybody being in there? Is there a dry place to put wet boots and gear to prevent indoor slips? Maybe we've had people out moving snow and doing different things and they're coming in. Where can they put their different things so that we're all safe there? And then where are the extra supplies? Blankets, water, snacks, pet supplies, the different things that you might need to get through an extended power outage. They don't have to be fancy or anything, but just simple tools that can go a long ways to keep your family, one, content and safe as if the power is to go out. The next thing is gun safety within the home, and 1 in 3 children live at home with at least one firearm. And it's completely fine to have a gun in your home, but what are you doing to keep the people safe with it? Oftentimes parents mistake that they don't realize their kids actually know where the firearms are stored. They assume they don't. And 89% of unintentional shootings occur in the home. There's also a myth that a young child can't pull a trigger on a fire alarm, and they actually are as young as 3-year-olds or have been known to pull triggers on firearms. So just being aware of these things help us to be more active in what we're doing to have our guns safe. So when we look at guns storage, we're looking at, is the gun locked? Is it unloaded? And is the ammunition stored separately from where the gun is actually stored? The other thing we want to encourage you to do is when your child visits another home, actively ask, is there an unlocked gun in your home? Or how do you store your guns? That's not being judgy. That's not trying to be invasive. That's actually just being proactively asking about the safety of your child in that home. So I think if we could make society, if we did that more often and make it not a taboo type of subject, it will help. And again, it's about keeping kids safe, because when you get a group of kids together, peer pressure can be hard and things can happen. So um, moving from inside the home to outside the home, who loves to go sledding? I love sledding. It's a fun activity, gets us outside on these nice days that we've been having lately. Go and enjoy those winter opportunities. And the things we want to consider are, is it a safe location? Look around, or does it avoid roads, rivers, parking lots? Different trees that maybe are around, or in my case, it was a picnic table that was nearby that we had to avoid. So we went on the other side of the hill. We would encourage you to wear winter sport helmets while sledding, and that might sound like a silly or unfamiliar idea, but we can end up crashing into something, and so a helmet helps protect that brain while we're enjoying sledding. And then we want children to sit facing forward rather than head first going down. We want them sitting up and facing forward as they're sledding, and that active adult supervision. So we're actively engaging with the kids, we're actively watching what they're doing, so that we can help them navigate any barriers that might be in their environment that might be unsafe. Like I said, in my case, it was a picnic table where we went sledding, so we went on the other side of the hill. Sometimes kids just like, hey, I want to go try this side, or somebody has a path here. Yep, we're going to avoid that and just redirecting those kids to safe places to sled. And then also making sure we have warm clothing and recognizing those signs of frostbite. Our body often tells us, so being aware of what our nose, our hands, and our feet are telling us can help us stay safe and healthy in enjoying those activities. Here is just a dressing for cold weather. If it's chilly, 1 to 2 layers, a long layer on our legs. We want to be able to have any of those outer layers to keep the wind and the rain and the snow away, and then warm waterproof shoes. Once we're cold, we're going to add that hat and mittens and possibly another 1 or 2 layers on our upper body and underbody legs. And then extreme cold, we're making sure we have 3 layers, multiple layers of pants. Our boots are waterproof and keeping us. We want to make sure that those pants and boots are connected so that they're keeping all the snow out. And you might add like a scarf or a face mask additionally. Then the good old walk like a penguin. And we joke about it in our office, but it does help us. And I don't know if you've noticed that this year I find that we have a skating rink all winter, it feels like. And so it is important that we walk like a penguin regardless of our age. Falls are the leading mechanism of injury for every age group. And obviously the ice can bring the chance of a fall. So we want to have slightly bent knees, keep our center of gravity in front of us, take short steps and with our arms out slightly, and then any traction devices are helpful too. You can sometimes add those to your shoes to support. There's another video here that will show us how more examples of how to walk like a penguin. So just bear with me while I grab that. Okay, I like there too that they said avoid carrying too much. I'm very much a person like I'm going to take as few trips as I can, but I think it is important to call out in winter months. We do need to be mindful of how much we're carrying and make sure we can transport whatever we're carrying safely and keep ourselves safe as well. Talking about slips and falls, indoor entry safety is also, and just that tile and wet floors can be a risk too. We want to get out, we want to enjoy the fresh air or nice days when we can, but it's important when we come back, where do we put that wet winter gear? We want to make sure that if we can, we maybe move our snow boots and shoes into a tray or mat so it's not leaking on the flooring. We're making a puddle where what someone can run down and potentially slip or fall. Um, where do we hang our wet gear to dry? Where's a safe place for that to happen? Um, Making sure we have towels handy. Let's clean up those puddles as quickly as possible so that we do avoid any falls there. And then sit down to remove our boots rather than flicking them off. I won't lie, just the other day tripped over my husband's shoes. So making sure we're mindful of where we're putting those things, um, and we remove them and keep them off to the side so they're not a risk of falling there. The other thing to consider here too is anchoring and securing any furniture. You might have maybe a shoe rack that is helpful. I don't know. About you, but if I don't sit down to take off my shoes, I might lean on something. Well, that shoe rack, if it's not anchored, could actually fall and fall on a younger child and cause an injury. And so, if possible, we want to anchor any furniture and make sure that it's secure so that it avoids any tip overs there. Then, when we look at other seasonal hazards, we can think about a lot of different things. We might have different decor out for the winter months. We just finished the holiday season, and maybe you have some different holiday decorating out there. So just being mindful of these different things. Um, Button battery injuries, we're going to talk a little bit more in detail, but button batteries are those small coin batteries. As we talked about earlier, people, particularly younger children, tend to explore the world with their senses, which means that may go into their mouth. The thing about button batteries is that they create a current and they can burn the tissue. And so they are a great concern when it comes to children ingesting these. So knowing what products you have in your home. I have the electric candles. They often only have button batteries. Those really cute cards that sing that people love to give kids and kids love to have. Button batteries are often only taped in. And so just being mindful what is in our home, and particularly if I'm putting out new decor or I'm putting out different things in the winter, what of my resources have button batteries? I want to make sure I keep those things up and out of reach for the kids to access. Make sure that any battery covers are secure. They either have a screw or a secure latch so the children can't access them. Talking about that too with different small things. Anything that fits down a toilet paper roll is considered a choking hazard for a small child. So as you're pulling out different decor items and different things, even as the kids get different toys at this time of year, being mindful if it can go down a toilet paper roll, it can be a choking hazard, and we want to keep those up and out of reach. With electrical cords, keeping them where kiddos can't grab them, whether they're behind furniture, there's different casings where you can purchase to kind of hide and wind those cords up so that kids can't grab them and unplug things and have a risk of electrical um, injury there. Sometimes the winter months bring more candle use, so being mindful where we're placing those and when we're using them. If you're placing them on something that like a table, Does that table have any fabric, maybe a table runner or something that the child could accidentally pull and then the candle could tip over and start a fire, wax could get on the child, those different things. I would also put in that category hot beverages, being mindful of our hot beverages, teaching old kids who are old enough how to remove things from the microwave when they're hot. I love a good hot chocolate, but how do I get it out of the microwave safely? And then also, if I have hot things and we have little kids, how do I make sure they don't tip on to the kids? They're up and out of reach so that they're not in their way as they're exploring and playing. And then tree fires and tip overs. Again, any furniture, we want to make sure it is anchored to the wall so it's not a tip over. For example, maybe it's your TV stand. Kids want the remotes. They climb up the TV stand to get the remotes. If it's not anchored, it could be a fall risk. So just being mindful of that. And any of our Christmas trees, if we had live trees in our home or plants, we just want to be mindful of those things too. I said we talk a little bit more about button batteries. This video outlines exactly what happens when a child ingests a button battery.
Here's a time-lapse video of the tissue damage that a button battery can cause in 3 hours. It's estimated that 80% of all cases of swallowed foreign bodies occur in children, mainly between 6 months and 3 years. There have been many cases of button batteries becoming lodged in children's throats and causing burns. It can happen as quickly as 1 hour after being swallowed. A button battery can cause damage in 3 ways. First, it can create an electrical current. Second, it can put pressure on sensitive tissues. And third, it can leak harmful chemicals from the battery that can continue to burn the esophagus long after the battery is removed. The burns can be so intense that the voice box can be destroyed or internal bleeding can occur. If you think a child may have swallowed a button battery, call the Poison Control Center right away, and going to the emergency department is recommended. Here's a time-lapse video of...
Okay. So button batteries are a concern and something we need to be mindful of. If you do suspect, unfortunately, it's often only a slight cough that can be it. So it's possibly more likely that you'll notice some kind of environmental clue, like a remote control that maybe doesn't have its cover on and the battery's missing, or different things like that. So just being mindful. If you ever suspect that there is a button battery ingestion, we strongly recommend you bring that child to the emergency department straight away and let them know. We work very closely with the trauma teams, and we've asked Sanford and Essentia, and they have both said they treat it like a code. If the child's old enough, you're encouraged to allow that child to have some honey to try to coat it and have a protection against between the button battery and the tissue or the body part that it lands on. But they still need to see receive medical treatment. Now, we said one of the other things that we do is on that road along the way, and car seats and vehicle reminders in winter. It's important that we, clear the snow before driving. We want to make sure our driveways are clear and make sure we're looking at where we're walking to make sure it's a safe place for us to travel. As we warm up our vehicles, best practice is to pull your vehicle out of your garage and warm it up outside of your garage so that carbon monoxide is not coming into the garage and then seeping into the home. So that is best practice. And then car seat reminders. If your child's in a 5-point harness, they shouldn't be wearing anything thicker than a fleece jacket. No puffy coats. Check the harness slack. So what you can do is we would encourage, if you want to see the why behind this, puffy coats can compress in a crash, which causes the harness to become loose and the child could potentially be even ejected. And so the test for this is put your child in as you would in the summer, harness them up, go and get their coat without loosening the harness. when you took the child out without the coat on, can you put the child back in the car seat with the coat on and still click it tight? Then that coat is most likely to be safe because it's the same type of harness setting as when they didn't have a coat on. If you have to release that harness and readjust it so that it fits better because it's too snug, then that coat is probably too thick and we need to look at a thinner option for travel. Some things you can do, because we do live in the frozen tundra, is put put the child in the car seat, harness, so we call it strap and then wrap. So harness them in, and then you could put their coat on backwards on, or put a blanket on top of them. It's important to hold hands as we're walking. We have that penguin walk, and we want to make sure those little ones are safe as they're going. It also helps us now help them navigate. Let's avoid this this spot here. Let's be mindful of other vehicles that are moving around who might not see us, etc. Um, and then winter survival kits, keeping those emergency kits in our car. Unfortunately, something can happen any point in time, any day of the year with our vehicles, so that can cause us delays. And so by having that survival kit, we're able to support ourselves in the vehicle. And then the 0525 awareness tool. This is as you get out of a car or even heading to a car, what's right in front of me? Looking around, what does my scene look like? Nope, it's safe, I can walk here. Or, oops, there's ice here, I need to be mindful of that. What about 5 feet out? What does that look like 5 feet out? Oh, there's a car backing up. I'm going to pause for a moment and then we're going to progress. And then 25 feet out. What does that look like? Just being aware and teaching kids that awareness of what's around us, what do I need to navigate, and how do I proactively navigate those things. Um, we talked about having that emergency kit. Here's just a list of basic things that you can have in a survival kit in your vehicle. Um, High calorie foods and snacks. Make sure you have that water, bright colored flag or clothing that you can use. Again, making sure we have chargers for our car, our phones and things so we can communicate, flashlights, etc. That is what I had for you today. So I can welcome any questions if there are any.
Yeah, I don't see any in the chat right now. But I do have to just make a comment because we've been having a lot of hot chocolate at our house, a
Mm,
lot. And different fun cups, they all heat up differently. And we
yes.
have had a situation where even just 1 minute in the microwave and it was like hot. The handle was so hot. So that really resonated with me because we just
Mhm.
had a situation like that at our house.
Yes, yep. We forget about it as adults sometimes, myself too. Like I go and grab it and don't think about it, but even more so for those younger kids. And they're at a lower level, so oftentimes they're tipping it right on themselves versus us who might be more at the level of the microwave.
Mhm. Yeah, and the ice. You're right. The ice has been really bad this year, and I actually witnessed someone coming into a healthcare facility who fell, and then I
Oh,
had to help. I had to go get help. So yeah, yeah, the penguin walk is necessary.
yes, yes. Yep.
Let's see. Any other questions? Put them in the chat if you have any. I might just get my screen shared here,
Yeah.
um, so
I'll
people
let you.
can take the.
There are just some
Oh yeah,
where we are located if you ever want to come and see us for any car seat information, home safety, etc. I will
wonderful.
stop sharing.
And for the you talked about locking guns in the safe area. Do you guys provide any locks?
Gun locks, we don't. We do
Okay.
have Be Smart in our Fargo-Moorhead area. They do provide them some. We are actually working on getting some. Um, and they're cable locks that we can provide. Sometimes our local police, law enforcement, carry them as well.
Okay, I knew I had gotten them from somewhere, some vendor show that I was at, so I wasn't sure. But that's awesome if you guys are working on that. We have one question that came in. How do we assess for possible exposure to carbon monoxide in hotels while traveling? That's a great
That is
question.
That is a wonderful question, and this has actually come up on our team a lot lately. There are actually travel carbon monoxide detectors that we would encourage you to take anywhere you're going. So, like we talked about, whether it's a hotel, don't assume that that hotel we'd like to think it does, but don't assume that it has the correct alarms in place. So bringing your own, you can get small travel size carbon monoxide detectors to take with you. You could take a bigger one and pack it in if you wanted to. And that's the same, we talked about sheds or fishing, ice fishing huts and things like that. I'd strongly encourage us to take those out while we're hunting and doing our different things as well, because we have space heaters, we have different things, generators supporting us doing staying warm out there, and we need to make sure we're safe as well.
Yeah, I actually had a situation this past summer at our camper, and we have a gas stove,
Oh, yeah.
and someone reached up and put something in like the cupboard above it, and it just slightly turned on, and we could not figure out why the carbon monoxide detector was going off. And so, I had everyone leave. We opened up the doors and then, had family come over and check it out. We got to the bottom of it, but yeah, so those alarms are so incredibly important.
Well, good job for you having one in your camper. Well done. And it shows how easily something can happen, right? Like somebody
Yeah,
accidentally hits a knob.
exactly. Okay, thank you for that question. That was really good. I didn't even think about that. It's well, I don't see any more questions that have come in. Um, Thank you, Katie, for
Mhm.
this wonderful presentation. You covered so much, and it was all just very timely. So really appreciate all the information you provided. And there is a QR code on this to take the evaluation survey. Um, and if any questions do pop up, you can always email me and I can direct them to Katie. Um, oh, and North
Oh,
Dakota Thrives has gun locks available. Well, thank you for putting that in the chat. Very
perfect. I'm
nice.
writing that down too.
Wonderful. And we can also, Katie, would you send me those videos, just like the link,
Hmm.
and I can send those out as a resource, especially because I find that kid washing one really helpful to just remind kids, because even my kids, they like quick wash their hands. I'm like, did you wash your hands? Because that was like 2 seconds. And
Right?
so just making sure that they understand like how to get all the germs off, especially now when their illness is just going around heavily.
Yes, I will get those to you as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, if no more questions are coming in, uh, we can kind of end early. So thank you again, Katie, and to all who could attend. To stay connected with us, you can follow Healthy Nodak on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and Foundation for Healthy North Dakota on LinkedIn. Also, to join the coalition, visit the link to stay aware of future updates, future webinars, and updates on the foundation. And then you have another opportunity to scan the QR code. But we will be getting all this stuff out into an email with the recording and some resources. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of your day.